Hello, this is Hunter McDermott with another Anyone Can Play Guitar video. Today we are going to talk about a new type of scale that I've mentioned in the past, known as harmonic minor. So we're going to look at what it is from a theory standpoint and why it might be useful, why it might exist. So the way to start with this is to look at a chord progression, a single chord progression in two different keys to kind of get the feel for why this might be important. So the chord progression I want to look at as an illustration is, let's take the one chord, and what we're going to do is use a little bit of that nomenclature that we learned. So we'll do a major 7, and then we'll take the 4 chord, which will also be major 7, and then we'll take the 5 chord, which is dominant 7. Alright. So, if we play this, if we pick a key and play it, we're going to pick the key of C like I tend to do. So this is a chord progression, we're just using Roman numerals, so what that's referring to is the position, the scale degree within that scale. So if we were to talk about a C major scale, then the first note, this first scale degree is C, so that would be equivalent to the 1. Let's see, C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C. So we have a 1 chord, and then we have the 4 chord, and then we have the 5 chord. All right. So, as we learned from our 7th chords video, we can take a basic triad, like C major, or F major, or G major, and we can add one more note to that to get a 7th chord. And if we do that on the C, we get C major 7, F major 7, and G dominant 7. Alright, so let's just hear how that sounds if we kind of play it in a 1-4-5 and then back to 1 kind of thing. So we're just taking the regular triads and just adding one more note to it, and it gives it a little bit more character. So importantly, we have this chord here, the 5 chord, which is the dominant 7 chord. And what makes that chord special is it includes an interval, which we talked about in our intervals video, known as a tritone. So in this case, we're dealing with a B note, B natural, and an F note, F natural. And those notes happen to be exactly 3 whole steps apart. And that is the definition of a tritone. And now the way a tritone sounds is kind of dissonant, right? Sometimes known as the devil's interval. Just kind of has like an uneasy quality to it, an unstable quality to it. It's begging us to resolve. Right, that F wants to go down to an E, and in this particular example, and the B wants to go up to a C. Right, you hear this often at the end of chord progressions for songs. Right, so what we're doing with that dominant chord is we're creating tension, and pretty much the root of that tension, the origin of that tension, is that tritone that we hear inside of that dominant 7th chord. And all dominant 7th chords have that tritone. That's what makes that chord special. So when we're building this chord progression 1-4-5 in a major key like this, then we kind of get this kind of perfect harmony happening, where we have this dominant chord that is designed, as far as our ear is concerned, to resolve back to the 1 chord. And that pull is very compelling for us as songwriters and fans of music and musicians in general, right? It's very rudimentary. Like, we've heard that a lot, and it's been around for centuries. But that's why it's so ingrained in our minds. It's just sort of atomic. We want to hear that resolution after we create that tension. So maybe we already know all this stuff, but here's where it gets interesting. If we were to move into, instead of the major scale, what if we did, let's see if I can do this. Boom. What if we went to the 6th scale degree of the key of C major, and we spelled the scale out from there, and this would give us something known as A natural minor. And that process of going to the 6th note of a major scale and then spelling it out from that starting point is known as the relative minor. So A minor is the relative minor of C major. You could do that with any major scale. Find the 6th note and spell it out, and you get its relative minor. All right, now, going back to this chord progression, if I play this chord progression now, starting from an A minor scale, well, the first thing is we lose this. The one chord in a minor scale is minor. The 4 chord is minor 7. And then the 4 chord is also minor 7, and the 5 chord ends up being also minor 7. So we would get something like this. Right? So that's fine. If we play that. Sounds great. Nothing wrong with that at all. But what we do lose when we go from major to minor is that dominant 7 chord. The 5 chord is no longer dominant 7. If we were to just build a triad, E, G, B, and then throw the 7 onto it, D, and put that all together, the type of chord that we end up with is not dominant 7, but minor 7, which has got a little bit less, it's got significantly less tension into it. It's more just kind of a pretty, I don't know, it's not really coming in from anywhere, it's not really going anywhere. It's nice, but it's not giving us a whole lot of harmonic information about where it fits in the grand scheme of things. It's not creating a sense of tension or pull in any one direction. It just kind of is. So, at some point, I admit I don't know the history of how this exactly came about, but at some point somebody was like, well, I want to write a chord progression in a minor key, but I don't want to lose that nice sense of tension that the 5 chord from the major scale gives us, that dominant chord. So what if we just kind of arbitrarily, following no rules at all, let's just artificially make the 5 chord a dominant. So then you'd get E dominant 7. All right, now you've introduced some tension. You've got a D note, that's the flat 7, but instead of a G natural, you have a G sharp. So basically you're taking an E major chord and adding a flat 7 to it, which we learned in our 7th chords videos is a dominant 7 chord. All right, now if we play that chord progression, so now we have that great sense of tension and resolution back. We've inserted it back into our chord progression by manually altering the 5 chord from minor 7, as it would naturally occur, into a dominant 7 chord. So here's where we get to the actual topic of the video. That's kind of the background as to why we might need something different here. So let me clear this out. So what we are left with, if we were to take this A minor scale and then pay attention to what we did So what we did is we took the 5 chord and we made it dominant, and what that involved was replacing this G with a G sharp. So if we were to write all that out, what we'd end up with is A, B, C, D, E, F, and then instead of G, we'd have G sharp, and then back to A. And this, let's see, check this out. That gives us harmonic minor. So what the formula is, if you want to think of it, not so much a formula, but the way that we can get it, one way to think of it is a natural minor scale with a sharp 7. So remember that. That's how we could come about that. All right, so then what that would look like on the guitar, and I won't get into too many specifics about the actual fingering, because as we've learned from the major scale videos, that's kind of the starting place. Learn all your major scales, and then understand that all your major scales are also minor scales. You don't have to learn 5 new shapes. It's the same thing. It's just thinking about it differently and applying it over different chord progressions, things like that a little bit differently. So that's the first thing. And then we're making a slight modification to it. So you can go to the guitar and you can kind of figure out what these fingering patterns will be based on the modification that we're going to make. So if I take an A minor scale, I'll start on A on the 6th string, 5th fret. This would be, in this specific case, pattern 5 of our major scales. And I play it up 1 octave. A, B, C, D, E, F, G, A. And then I sharp the 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I get G sharp instead of G. And I can do it multiple octaves. Then what I'm left with is the A harmonic minor scale. And so this is kind of similar to the modes stuff we talked about, where you can get, it's less common that you would play the harmonic minor scale the whole time, whatever you're playing over. It's one of those things that's more commonly employed on a chord by chord basis. So when it makes sense, when we're making some sort of change to our chord progression where this scale would fit, we'll switch scales that we're playing. Might be playing A minor, and then we'll play a harmonic minor for one measure or over one chord or set of chords, and then go back. It doesn't really matter. You can use it whenever it sounds good to you, but that would be an example. So I've got a loop here of A minor, D minor, and then E7, E dominant 7, which has that G sharp in it, and then back to A minor. So what I'm going to do, so I'm just going to kind of improvise over it playing A minor, which has the G natural, and then when that E7 rolls around, I'm going to sharp the G and start playing harmonic minor. We'll hear how that sounds. So you can hear how over the A minor 7, well, I was just playing regular A minor there, no A minor 7, but over A minor and over the D minor, I was just playing A minor scale, an A natural minor scale. And then once that E7 came around, I changed the G into a G sharp. And the reason in this specific example why it's G sharp and not some other note is because the E chord, the difference between E minor and E major, is that G sharp. That's the note that's changing between, that's the note that I'm modifying in order to get to turn that E minor 7 into an E dominant 7. So that's why that's G sharp in that case. But the more general formula would be to take a natural minor scale and just sharp the 7th degree of it, and you get harmonic minor. So what's cool about that, like I was saying before, is that you can take a chord progression and that has this kind of built-in sense of tension and release, which creates movement, a very satisfying sense of movement from that 5 chord to the 1 chord. Then you can go into the relative minor and achieve that same sense of tension and resolution by altering that 5 chord and making it, instead of minor, making it a dominant chord. So again, it's kind of artificial. You're not really building it from any kind of home base. It's not really related to much. We're just going in there and saying, I'm going to change this. But what that does is that inserts that sense of tension and resolution into a minor key, the same way that it already exists in a major key, which is just nice. It's just another tool that you can use when you're working on tunes. I'm trying to think of a good example. Let's see, the Eagles, Hotel California, utilizes harmonic minor and this whole altering the minor to make it dominant thing. Probably a million other examples, but that's the one that comes to the top of my head. So take a listen to that for an example of how that sounds, and then of course I've given examples in this video too. But that's harmonic minor in a nutshell. How you get it from a theoretical standpoint, why you might want to do that, and what it kind of problem it solves, or what additional utility it creates. So if you have any questions about that, leave me some comments. I prefer getting questions in email. It's a little bit easier to keep track of. So if you have any questions either about this or about anything else, in fact, I'm looking for more questions, more video ideas to do. So please shoot me an email. I'll throw the email up on the screen there. Send me an email. Let me know what you're wondering about, what I might be able to help with, and I will do my best. But thank you for tuning in, and I will see you all next time.